Hello there, this is James Scrofty, 1978, and ever since Mike Mayonnaise on White Bread Pence ranted about freedom versus socialism at CPAC back in March, I'd been wondering precisely what, beyond a tribalistic false dichotomy in the form of a 4 legs good, 2 legs bad catchphrase, the definitions of freedom and socialism, at least in this context, actually are in the minds of the people who were applauding him and insist that America will never be a quote-unquote socialist country. That is, until recently, when I was rewatching the third part of Movie Bob's magnum opus Really That Bad, and this minor digression finally caused me to realise what had been staring me in the face all along.
The Fountainhead, incidentally, is an allegorical treatise on individualism and the rights of the artist. It tells the story of Howard Roark, the world's greatest and most visionary architect who finds himself blocked from the success he deserves by a public that rejects his radical, forward-thinking designs, and thusly a lack of clients willing to agree to his complete terms of creative autonomy. Why, oh why, will people not just get out of his way and let him do what he is objectively the best person in the world suited to do? Ultimately, though, Roark discovers that the public resistance to his bettering the world through his superior architecture skills is not actually genuine. Rather, the gullible masses have been misled by the insidious propaganda spread by an all-powerful architecture critic, yes, all-powerful architecture critic, Ellsworth Toohey, who believes that Roark's genius and exceptionalism are a dangerous presence that threatens the order of the ordinary world and has undertaken an elaborate, years-long conspiracy to turn the public against him. So, yeah.
Good joke. Everybody laugh. Roll on snare drum. Goodness.
Because after all, the entire basis of insecure white boy syndrome is the insecure white boy in question's self-righteous delusion that they are naturally and inherently superior, which, because it is debunked every moment of every day in every aspect of their pitiful and spite-filled existence, leads inevitably to the paranoid rationalization that the only reason why they're not John Galt is that the evil leftist Muslim Jewish feminazi SJW socialist cultural Marxists are jealous of their glorious magnificence and therefore engaged in a vast global conspiracy to strip them of their quote-unquote freedom, but as Corey Robin points out in his book The Reactionary Mind, not to be confused with my audiobook An Explanation of Reactionary Regressiveness, though it is often claimed that the left stands for equality while the right stands for freedom, this notion misstates the actual disagreement between right and left. Historically, the conservative has favoured liberty for the higher orders and constraints for the lower orders. What the conservative sees and dislikes in equality, in other words, is not a threat to freedom, but its extension. For in that extension, he sees a loss of his own freedom. Conservatism, then, is not a commitment to limited government and liberty or a wariness of change, a belief in evolutionary reform or the politics of virtue. These may be byproducts of conservatism, one or more of its historically specific and ever-changing modes of expression, but they are not its animating purpose. Neither is conservatism a makeshift fusion of capitalists, Christians, and warriors, for that fusion is impelled by a more elemental force, the opposition to the liberation of men and women from the fetters of their superiors, particularly in the private sphere. Such a view may seem miles away from the libertarian defense of the free market with its celebration of the atomistic and autonomous individual, but it is not. When the libertarian looks upon society, he does not see isolated individuals, he sees private, often hierarchical groups where a father governs his family and an owner his employees. To put it another way, what insecure white boys and what we describe as the right in general actually want is to be king of their own tin-pot little kingdom, in which no matter how democratic the public sphere may be, or how many others are superior to them, those who are beneath them in the hierarchy will always know their place and be grateful, with their greatest fear being simultaneously that those who they perceive as inferior will cease to bow to them, and someone more powerful than they are, i.e. the government, will take away their freedom, which is to say their power to be petty tyrants, by giving equality, i.e. power to those who they perceive as their inferiors. Meaning that in answer to another question that's been bugging me for years as well, this is why insecure white boys and their token supporters invariably believe that the Nazis were socialist, even in defiance of their own goddamn definitions, because to them, regardless of whether they seek to or claim to grant equality to their inferiors or not, socialism, getting right down to the emotional core of the issue, is merely their fear of the government, taking away their freedom, i.e. power over others, by telling them what they can and cannot do. Ironically enough, though, as I've already mentioned, because they live in constant terror of an uprising from below, fearing democracy and equality more than they fear genuine tyranny, because it will destroy the supposed natural order of things, which by sheer coincidence just happens to be straight white cis male supremacy.